But our next guest is Mr. David Kay. He is a gentleman that is a physician. He's in the medical space. That I know there's a lot of people here that have interest in that side of the entrepreneurial world. He developed a product that led to a company called OrthoHelix. OrthoHelix was sold. He exited for a considerable, lofty sum of money, which is only important because it shows great ideas actually lead to the ability to do more great ideas. It's not about the money in your pocket. It's about the money that you can put out there and make other ideas grow. So please, Mr. David Kay, come on up here.
David? Thanks. You can just grab that chair right there and grab that mic if you want. So we're going to continue our discussion before we open it up. I want to say something to everybody here, though. Whoa, nice catch. We would have been kicked out of this club if you'd spilled that all over the electronics. We do want to say to you guys, this is a format for you, not for us. We were trying to start a series of community discussions that would lead to ideas and collaboration. So if you don't like it, if you do like it, whatever, at the end of the night, please tell us. We don't want people to give us nod and say it was fine if it wasn't. We want to make this a regular monthly community meeting. So please, we really need your honest feedback when we're done tonight. So talk a little bit about, our topic again tonight is facing risk and ambiguity. But give us a little perspective of your background and your career and where you encountered the first big risk in your life.
Okay, so I'm an orthopedic surgeon. And tomorrow I'm operating on 6 people. That means I'm going to be cutting them apart and putting them back together.
Wait, can you guys hear him in the back?
Can you guys hear me?
Okay, just want to make sure you're holding the mic
All
close
right.
enough. So it sounds to me like
That's
6 other
risk.
people are taking the risk.
No, I'm the one taking the risk.
I don't know.
I'm the one
It's
taking
even.
that risk. But my job for them is to minimize the risk and to make sure that the process goes the best it possibly can. So if we go back in time many, many years ago, back in 95, bad day in the operating room. Resident did something not so good. I spent a lot of time fixing it back up again. Came home, opened up a bottle of wine, looked at a wire corkscrew, said, nah, somebody's done that. Okay, this is all pre-Google and trying to find out if anybody really had done anything or not. So I started thinking, I got to find out. So got in touch with a patent attorney, patent agent, did the search. Nobody done that. Okay, so now I'm paying for all this, as opposed to a typical physician, which is you go to a big company and, oh yeah, we'll go do this for you. No, I was doing it all on my own. So I was taking risks there. I was taking time away from my practice, minimal time away from my family, but basically time away from me. You know, the classic work at 10 o'clock at night till 2, 3 in the morning, get up at 5 in the morning, go to work. And it was over and over doing this, and like, well, you know what? Maybe I got a decent idea here. Started doing some prototyping, which was very difficult. There is no, or at that time, there was no ecosystem. I had no mentor. There was nobody to go to. I had no clue what I was doing. I was bumbling around all over the place and just trying to figure out how to do this. So the best way I can describe myself was I was totally possessed to solve the problems. And I was going to make it happen, absolutely going to make it happen. And it wasn't happening. And 5, 6 years later, I found myself out in Fiji trying to figure this whole mess out. And I was told my big problem was I wasn't thinking big enough. I needed to if I'm going to do this, I've got to be the best in the world. So I left Fiji going, okay, I'm going to make the best small bone company in the world. The best one there is. Nobody's going to do it better. And recruited my friends, international known group of orthopedic surgeons, get on a podium anywhere on the planet, they're going to be recognized, recruited them. And as opposed to the typical companies which pay you to do work, they all pay to do this work because they were also possessed. So I had to create my own ecosystem. And there were stumbles, and there was almost a death spiral, and we got out of that. And that was a lot of risk. I mean, that was a horrible, horrible time when my friends' money was going down the tubes, my family's money was going down the tubes. It was looking really bad. I didn't say mine so much, my friends and my family. And got things rescued up, things started perking along, built the team. We started making more and more products to solve problems. And that was really the whole thing. We had to solve problems. And we had to solve them in ways that not everybody else was doing. Unfortunately, Flattery really is not the highest form, or imitation is not the highest form of flattery. It just kind of pisses you off. When you work like crazy, and innovation is hard work. I think you both would agree with me. It doesn't just happen. You know, it's not a divine inspiration and, oh gee, here's this thing. And then even if you get a divine inspiration, you got to make it happen. You have to execute on it. And the execution can be the real challenge. And there's so much risk. And remember, in my world, in the medical device world, there's a lot of crazy risk. The things that have to be done. It's not taking a pill and absorbing a pill like a pharmaceutical. It's not getting an injection. You're relying on the skill of a surgeon to implant a very special device. There's a lot of risk there to make that happen. But it's always about managing the risk. You can't eliminate risk. There's always risk. You know, I've had an amazing adventure the past 20 years. I was over in Germany and Australia teaching surgeons on implants I designed. You know, so it's international. I mean, what a kick, what a ride. It's been fantastic because I took some risks.
So I want to draw a couple things out of what you just said that we need to take home and apply here to the city. There were a couple of really key points. One of the points that you made was you went and got the best. You built a team of the best people. There is a specific reason why we invited all of you that are in this room tonight. Our vision for Akron is, let's get the best all in one room so that we have a team of people that can really get stuff done. The second thing that you said was being possessed, right? And that's that feeling. I had one time where I was scuba diving and my regulator, something broke, and I suddenly had no air coming. And somebody that was diving alongside me was trying to talk to me, and I was waving them off because the only thing in the entire planet Earth that mattered to me was oxygen, okay? That's how I feel when I'm building something, right? Nothing in the world matters to you. You're possessed. Just like you said, that level of passion and commitment to anything you do is what creates greatness. If we in this room don't get possessed like he is about Akron, it ain't gonna happen. Everybody in here has got to get that sense of we are possessed and we ain't stopping until we make this place.
I'm not sure about possessed. I just.
All right, well,
here
you can change the word if you want.
It's funny because people say, you know, you own this and you own that, and I always correct them. I say, no, I'm owned by that. I'm owned by that. That owns me. I have to own it, and it owns me. So I'm in charge, but a chapter, a steward. You're here for a time, and you're earnest during that time that you have, that 15 minutes of fame. Work it. And you just put it in, man. You just keep doing it, and you just keep making it happen. And the more you're out there every day pumping and pedaling away, you're going to climb that hill, and you're going to invent things, and you're going to figure out a way to take it to market, and you're going to figure out a way to make it sustainable and not only take care of yourself and your needs, but hundreds of others around you, hopefully. So be a builder. It owns you.
Tony, we call that possessed.
I think he's
Who's clapping over there? Stop that back there, you guys.
Well, I mean,
get back to work.
They are your employees.
I need a drink
all.
too. Somebody get me a drink.
I completely agree, by the way, that when you let that thing own you, it's a completely different thing.
Right.
And
I'm teasing, you know, but the possession thing, man.
People get caught
I get
up in that.
scared when I see people's eyes rolling back in their heads. You know, I don't like that stuff.
You did choose to open a bar, so that's going to happen. I want to hit on the third thing you said, that part of your problem was you weren't thinking big enough. That's what you realized in Fiji. And again, I want to put that out to the people in this room here. If you don't believe that we can build a world-class city with a world-class university in it, then it'll never happen. Step one is the people that live inside have to believe, you have to believe that you could build that product, that you could be doing this around the world one day or it never happens. So I just want us to take those lessons, but I'd like you sort of continue about when you started to hit ambiguity or bigger risks and how you kept going and fighting through it.
So a lot of the risk, actually internal. You know, as we built the team up, there's always this pullback. And the way I described myself this evening to somebody else was, I'm the accelerator. I'm the guy pushing really hard to move things along. I had a plan, and the plan was really very simple. It was, let's create basic products, create trust in our users. They have to trust us. Surgeons are finicky people. You have to really understand your customers. In medical device space, you have multiple customers, by the way. It's not just one customer. It's not a guy coming to the bar. You've got the patient, you've got the surgeon, you got the hospital, you got the payer, you got the government. You have a string of customers, and if you don't identify them and understand and recognize how they're going to benefit from what you're going to do, you're going to fail. You have to have total understanding of your customer base. And then you have to figure out how to create new customers. You've got to figure out what's happening in the market today that's different than it was a year ago, 2 years ago. Healthcare has changed drastically in the past 3 years. Drastic changes. It's not the same. But everybody expects it to be the same. You expect to go in and have everything taken care of the exact same way. So again, understand the patient as a customer. And the patient is now a customer, by the way. If you look at deductibles, everything's changed. We have to change with that. And what I see when I look at the current environment is it's not changing. And that means great opportunities, phenomenal opportunities.
But so much of the rest of the world is changing, and it's such an amazingly fast pace. Every night when we sleep, something happens in the world that's probably relevant. And the first person to wake up and see it and figure out how to take advantage of it wins. So many of today's companies were first mover. They didn't do anything brilliant, they just did it first. And they did it first because they were the people watching to see what changed in the world around them and where they could apply it. So finding new opportunities and applying them to industries that aren't changing is obviously a huge opportunity, and that's clearly what you did. You're in one of the biggest fields in the world, obviously, healthcare. And by the way, part of risk, we define risk as when we don't know what's going to happen next. But to me, the silly part of that is we don't know anyway. Right? Who would have ever predicted that? In fact, it's kind of funny because you know what's the one thing I don't like using my phone for? I hate it when people call me. Okay? This thing was my phone. It only did phone calls. Now I do 15 other things, and it's annoying when somebody calls me. Who'd ever predicted that we hated using the phone for phone? We didn't predict things like 9/11 or ISIS even. There's so many things that happen all the time that change the world that risk is almost a silly concept because you don't know what's going to happen anyway.
No question about it. We're all on a ride, and we aren't really driving the car. I mean, we're all on a ride, and you can control it only so much. So I think it's important that you have to recognize the risk. One of the things about when you hear at entrepreneurial talks, fail fast, failing's fine. Okay, it's okay to fail, it's fine. Midwest, not so much. They haven't really grasped onto that. In my business, I can't fail. So I'm ingrained very deeply to absolutely minimize the risk, recognize the risk, and sometimes I have to take very large risks, and there's been times I have to take it where somebody's life depended on it, absolutely depended on it. That's a different type of thing to hold on to as opposed to other things. And it's really taught me a lot without formal business school.
Let's talk about that failure thing for a minute because that's one I really have a thought on too. Silicon Valley, I think, was the creator of this. They have failure parties where unless you failed miserably at something, you're not even invited. Okay? They celebrate failure. And I got to tell you, we did not build this country into greatness by accepting failure, right? It's just ridiculous. I told them once, using the sports analogy, do you think LeBron went into the NBA Finals last year and said, I really hope we lose because it will make us better people? I don't think so. People don't set out to fail. They simply accept it when they do. It's kind of, I don't want to get off on this, but it's that every kid gets a trophy. If your kid gets a trophy for doing nothing but showing up, throw it out. Give your kid some respect and teach them that hard work and risk-taking and staying after practice when no one else does and all the hours you both put in to your businesses when other people thought you were crazy, that's what creates greatness. Not avoiding that. Thanks.
Failure is going to be part of taking risk, and there will be failure, but you have to anticipate the failure. You've got to try to create as much of a soft landing. Remember, it's not just about you. If you've done this right, you have a team of people, and you're responsible for that team. You can't just let all of them fall apart. They have families. They have their own lives, and if you're in that leadership position, you've got to make sure that they are well treated.
So I'd like you and Tony both to answer this question. Tell us about a time that you took a risk and failed and how you got through that, how you dealt with that. All right, Tony,
Okay.
go. We'll give you a minute.
Yeah.
I was waiting for game show music. Where's the sound
Where's
guy?
the game show? So, yeah, I mean, here's one that I consider basically a personal failure. When we were closing on the sale of the company, it was pretty complex discussions, negotiations, a lot of legal and massive time legal firms back and forth stuff. And board came to me and said, you got to sign a 3-year non-compete. I'm like, what? Well, we got it down from 5 years. I'm like, what? 3 years? I got to sit in the sidelines for 3 years? Am I getting paid extra for this? No. Okay, I guess I'll do it for everybody. And I consider that a personal failure. But the flip side is, sat in the sidelines for a really long time, grew a lot. Actually, I didn't grow any more gray hair. The hair that's there turned gray. And we've now developed a new incubator. And out of that incubator, I think we're going to create companies that are designed for 2016, 17, 18, not 2004, not 1995, whichever what everybody else is doing. So I did my best to turn that failure into something really, really positive. I mean, in our first year of the incubator, first off, we got incorporated the incubator, and we incorporated our first spin-out company. And we got 2 more in process. Not too bad.
Oh, that's fantastic. Tony?
Well, the idea that I become scared about something or I'm afraid to walk out on the wire. You know, you talked about having a net or the idea of being on a high wire. Where's your net? And how far can you fall? Chances are, if you just focus straight ahead and you keep moving on that wire, you won't fall. One step in front of the other to the goal that you're trying to achieve. That's how you manage your risk. But I disagree because we know where we're going. We really know where we're going. And where we're going is to a continuation of shining the light. As whatever can you use your skills, your time, your treasures, and your talents, you work on shining the light that's been given to you. You know you're going to a good place, right? And so walk out in confidence. Walk out with hope, with trust. Step accordingly. Step lightly, but make the ascent.
So I want to ask you both another question, and what I want to do, Ian, you can keep us posted on time.
We were talking about failure there, though, weren't we?
We were. You may have failed to answer that question.
I did. Dramatically,
So there
too.
you have it, and you've recovered nicely from that failure. And Ian failed to get me any bald guests. He got me 2 guys that were growing hair just to prove they can. So Ian, next time. I'd love you both to talk about, in dealing with failure, or just dealing with risk and ambiguity, like we talked about. You mentioned the word earlier today, fear, right? And I know you don't actually have a DNA strand of fear. I know you well enough to know that now. But most people do. And like you said, you have a fear for a different reason, because everybody else's lives are dependent upon your success, right? You just can't make a mistake. I'm in a business where if I launch an internet company and no one comes, nothing happens, right? So it's a different thing. So dealing with fear, dealing with risk and ambiguity, tell me from part of the reason we have this community here today is mentorship. We all need to help each other. Was there somebody along the way in your path that gave you some advice that helped you deal with fear and ambiguity and risk?
Yeah, absolutely. So I said when I started this whole process, I really didn't have anybody to go to. So around 2005, 2006, we got a venture capital firm to make a small investment. And they brought somebody on board who is incredibly experienced person in business, absolutely incredible person. And he actually helped to mentor me. And as we built our board, we brought more and more people in. We had 7 folks on our board. And one of them started a company called Biomet, which was just recently sold for, I think, $12 billion. So he was one of the founders and former CEOs. He was on our board. Another person was one of the founders of a spine company called Danik, which was acquired by Medtronic. Phenomenal people. Two other venture folks, different ages, different experience. Learned so much, an incredible amount. not just about the finances, but about how to manage people, how to manage risk, how to look for things. I still am very confused by salespeople. I mean, all of our discussions were about salespeople, it seemed like. And it seemed like bringing up new products and dealing with those issues of the new products was almost the easiest part. So I learned so much about managing people in ways that I had never been exposed to before. And that's what they were so phenomenal at. They just knew how to recognize the right people. I also learned you don't tolerate the wrong people. They're gone. They absolutely poison your company. So you have to be firm enough, strong enough to get rid of the wrong people as quickly as you can once you figure out they're wrong.
Spirit of discernment, knowing whether it's part of the solution or part of the problem, and then quickly alleviating the problems. That's what I heard. I gained wisdom from the way that you have approached your business. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm glad to be on the stage with Dr. McKay.
So tell us about yours. Who influenced you and who gave you that kind of mentorship? Was there somebody that helped you when you were uncertain with ambiguity?
That's a good question. I've always been fortunate to be around smart people, and I have good friends and a wonderful family. And I think people of kindred spirit encourage one another, and through the times that you might be going in the dimness and looking for the door that just won't open, you have people behind you encouraging you, saying, hey, keep going. You're doing good. Keep going. Surround yourself with right voices and allow your heart to be at rest, and it kind of opens up to gain clarity when you're seeking wise counsel around people. So yes, I've been very fortunate, very blessed to be around mentors.
So let's talk about that in this room and in this community tonight as well. And I absolutely, completely agree. I've noticed an interesting observation that somebody is coming right up here and said, that was my observation right now, was you walking up here.
No, I'm going to illustrate what risk is. Yes, I'm going to illustrate it because I've listened to all these. I've listened to all these great suggestions by these great men who have succeeded, etc., but they haven't even invited a woman up here. Good. We noticed. Finally.
We're just getting started.
Clearly, you missed the silver beard requirement for coming up here.
But the silver has turned itself upside down. It's up there and well colored. Believe me.
We're glad you came up here.
Oh, thank you.
I love your shirt. Orange is my favorite, next to blue. It makes me
Don't
glad.
try to flatter a woman.
Oh,
She
I
knows
love
that
orange.
when that's
Orange, you
happening.
glad to be here. We're so glad that you're here tonight, ma'am. Tell us your name.
Susan, that's all you need.
No, Susan. What's your last name? I'm
No,
Tony
no,
Tropy.
No.
If you're going to be on my stage, you're going to tell us who you are.
I'm trying to make a point here. See, no free flex. There you go.
I'm pretty relaxed right now.
Oh, good.
You want to see me excited about something?
I've had.
What is your last name?
Oh God, here we go. Spears.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're here, Susan Spears. Jeff Hoffman is an open thinker that would welcome your comments.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, David. Nice to be up with all
Thank you,
three.
Susan.
Share
Appreciate
this
you
day.
coming up.
I just want to say that women in this room who are mothers will acknowledge their incremental experience in success is when they pop a 8-pound baby out of a very small portal in their body. That is incremental success.
Incremental escalation, I think, was the word we were looking for.
And in that process, I've noticed that, unfortunately, women can work against other women, and men will be happy to note that women can have so much power, and then they kind of put a cap on it. So I want to encourage all of the women out here to allow that. My CEO of my company is here in the room, and I've already knocked on his door, and he knows I'll knock on it again because he's ignored me. So the first thing you do is not allow the men in the room to ignore you. Even when they brought up the diverse races and everything but sex. They didn't say diverse sex in the room. So I'm saying the diverse sex. I'm saying that the talent is there, and everything that they've talked about risk, Many women take daily just to go outside of the home and try to succeed in something other than being the wife and the mother. And so we're with you, but by gosh, you better give us more opportunities. Just like the black actress got on about Oscars and said we need more opportunities. We need more opportunities, and you can bet, pardon me, I'm going to take this moment, Hillary is twice as experienced and everything else. She has to be twice as good as everybody else, and then she just might get that job.
But she has to be twice as good, right?
All right, so let me add something, because you talked about providing opportunities. The first week of March, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, the Excel Center we're doing a launch week. During launch week, we are having multiple women's events, just so you'll know. So we'll be hosting women's events in our community. Katie's in here.
And we're going to invite Susan Tip of the Spears here to run the formatting. I think that'll be nice, Susan Spears.
but-
You'll be the tip of for us?
Susan, we want you to know we're supporting
Thank
a lot
you.
of other efforts.
That was fun. That's what we call improv. That's like improvisational elements of jazz.
The
good.
IEEE, the Global Women in Engineering, it's not here in Ohio, but it's the Global IEEE Women in Engineering event. I'm actually the host of that event. So
That's gonna be a
we're
fun
doing,
one.
Katie is in the room, the Empower Women's Network, Katie's sitting right there, will be participating in that. So just want to make sure you know, even though we started with these two people, we have a lot of activities supporting women and recognizing women in business that we're going to do. So I wanted to sort of close before we open the floor with this, back to this, thank you for coming up. You're welcome anytime. The whole point is, this is our community, so this is our couch, okay? We would never stop somebody from coming up to do that. We appreciate that you took that risk and what you had to say. So I want to sort of close with, before we open up the floor a little bit, with this concept you just both talked about mentorship. Because one of the things that I noticed through my whole career especially as well, was that, I'm going to summarize it to you, I'm going to cut to the chase. Here's the punchline that I never knew that I wish someone had told me. We get our advice from proximity, not from relevance. Who tells you if your idea is a good one? Husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, mother, father, sister, friend. It's the person around you. And one day I was sitting there while my mom was shredding my idea, and it occurred to me, wait, Mom, you've launched how many internet companies? Oh, I remember, 0. So I've learned to say, that's nice, Mom. But you know what I did? I said, somebody in my community is relevant, not close. Quit getting your advice from proximity and search for relevance. Why did Ian and I say, let's bring a whole mix of people in here? Because that's relevance, right? So one of the things that we want you to do in this mentoring community, right? You all came in the groups you came in. We have a lot of students in here. They came in together and they're going to leave together. And you know what? They're not going to mix. Just like a lot of you, we have less experienced people in business and more experienced people. You came in your groups and you're going to leave in your groups, and that's a loss for everybody in this room. The relevance is for us to build networks of people that can actually help each other because they all have relevant experience. And for example, this morning, I went and spent the morning at Barberton High School with all the at-risk kids. And I sat in a room with the at-risk kids at Barberton, and we talked about designing your life and chasing your dreams. But while I sat there, adults from around this community wandered into the room, and every one of them was there with one question: is there something I can do to help these children? We need to make that a community-wide effort. So I'm going to ask you, we're going to open up the floor for some questions now before we just have a nice night of jazz and music and enjoy the club. But do yourselves a favor, not me. Do Akron a favor. Don't leave this room without introducing you to yourself to somebody that normally you wouldn't even talk to. If you're an experienced business person, you should be talking to students and saying, I've done a lot of stuff, I can probably help you. But you know what, students? You're not the opposite end of the spectrum just because you don't have experience. You think in a wide open, creative way that we don't, because we've been doing this so long. So you should be bold enough to say, you know what, man? I probably could take a stab at that problem you're working on and think about it a way you never have. So let's all do a favor and build those relationships. I always tell Ian, my favorite word, I have this phrase that we use called kinetic collisions. Kinetic collisions are what happen when you just put a whole bunch of smart, high-energy, passionate people in one room together or in one club together and just let them go. Things happen. People meet each other. Ideas are exchanged. Contact information is exchanged. things happen that would never happen in your daily path to work because you never cross each other's paths. So one of the things that the Excel Center at the University of Akron wants to do in this community is we want to create more kinetic collisions. We want to create more opportunities where a student is meeting Tony and meeting Dave, and you guys are meeting really bright, people that are coming up through our educational system, that all of us are mixing in a way that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So